welcome to the New Directions podcast, where we specialise in helping real women achieve real transformations.
Welcome to the New Directions Women's Fitness podcast. Today I'm going to be interviewing Bhavya, who has fallen pregnant and has been training for the last 9 months. And we're going to be talking about what your goals were when we first began. And obviously one of them was, thankfully, to fall pregnant. And basically talk about how training's changed and how you're feeling about everything now. So without further ado, hello Bhavya.
Hello Matt, thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. Okay, so can you give us a little bit of an overview as to who Bhavya is and what's been happening over the last 9 months?
Sure. Like Matt said, I'm Bhavya. I have been living in Australia for the last 2.5 years. We had relocated from South Africa, where we lived for about 5 to 6 years. When I say we, my husband and myself, but originally from India. So the last 2.5 years have been really challenging for us, moving to a new country, trying to settle in life personally, trying to settle at work, a lot of changes. But one thing has been constant, has been workout. And there was, once we realized we settled in Australia, the next step was to start a family. But there's so much mixed information available. It could be from my Indian background, it could be from the internet. There's a lot of myths or information about workout and not workout during pregnancy. And that was a situation of dilemma for me, if I was doing things right. And that's when I realized I probably need a coach. I need to be working out in the guidance of a coach. If I want to fall pregnant, if I want to be healthy during my pregnancy and post-pregnancy. And that's why I was in a lookout for a personal trainer. Yeah. And now I've been training with Matt since the beginning of the year. Yeah. So beginning of the year, and I am now 23 weeks pregnant. And I think I'm glad I made this decision to be training under a coach, because I had the confidence that I can work out, and my body is strong enough to handle a baby as well as to help me to work out.
Beautiful. Okay, so I want to redirect this back to you as well. So how were you feeling, and what were some of the precautions that you basically initiated when you had decided, all right, we're going to start, trying to fall pregnant? And because I remember you were quite nervous, to put it lightly, and when I'm going to just throw it in there, when you get nervous, you plan and you execute, and you
absolutely.
Yes. So do you want to go into some of the things that you and the test you did to say, okay, am I healthy? Is your husband Jeremy healthy as well? And and then how you went through that process, because I think the girls will really appreciate listening to you.
Sure, definitely. I know it's a bit personal, but I'm happy to share my story. If there is something that people can learn from it, right? So when we were in South Africa, although I was very regular with workout and pretty healthy with eating, I was diagnosed with thyroid and insulin resistance, vitamin D deficiency, vitamin B12 deficiency. I think all of these nutrients are actually very, very important for you to fall pregnant. And that's when I saw an endocrinologist, and he started treating me with medication and made sure I lost a lot of weight. So I lost about 10 to 15 kilos at that point in time. I think I did something right, but I didn't keep it consistent. And then we relocated to Australia. And I thought, okay, I'm so healthy. I work out regularly. I can fall pregnant the first month that we start trying. And we started trying in Jan, didn't really work. Tried in Feb, didn't work. But also the challenge was, for me, workout has become a mental addiction rather than a physical need. So the first 15 days of the month, I used to work out. The next 15 days, I used to be scared to work out if I'm doing any damage to the baby. So this cycle kept continuing for 3 or 4 months. It wasn't helping me to be mentally peaceful, and it just didn't help me to be de-stressed or to remain calm, which is probably very important to fall pregnant. That's when I got in touch with Matt, had a discussion with him, and slowly I started to realize that it's not only workout that's important, it's definitely your husband's health as well, the environment, the stress that you're going through, the food that you eat on a daily basis. There are several factors that really are important for you to fall pregnant. And to be frank, we actually fell pregnant during the months we were not planning to fall pregnant, because we had a 1 month Euro trip lined up. But it so happened that we actually fell pregnant only in the months that we were without a plan trying or so that's how things work.
Absolutely. And so I just want to make this clear. So those 2 weeks that you decided that you were like, oh, I don't want to exercise in case of the baby, that was a fear, even though you didn't know if you were pregnant at that time or
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And every month I failed to get pregnant, the fear only got higher.
And even that word failed, like that's a lot of pressure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so there are a couple of factors as well I just want to point out that come to my mind as you say this too, which I want to emphasize, which is so when we first met and we sat down as well, one of the things, as you were new to Australia relatively, and it meant that you didn't have a lot of roots here yet.
Absolutely.
And so they're all fresh, and therefore a little bit shallow, and so I knew this wouldn't really excite you or make you be excited to hear it at the time, but creating those relationships and new relationships and meaningful, deeper relationships would no doubt, without question, lower your level of stress, make you feel more calm and at peace, and also, I imagine, make you feel more confidence in your decision to be in Australia as well, rather than being like, if it doesn't work out in 6 months, I'm out of here. And naturally then all of those other benefits could flow on from that as
Absolutely.
well. Yeah.
And I must say, Matt, coaching with you, I did get a group of people that I could really rely on, not only pre-pregnancy. I think during my pregnancy, I have a lot of friends that I have made through New Directions that check in with me on a regular basis to see if I'm doing fine. They give me advice about what can be done. It's really such a supportive group to be in. When I was in Europe, just fallen pregnant, again fearful of, am I doing it right? Am I okay to travel? Still, there were people checking on me, even if it was in different time zone. So it's not only the health benefit, definitely it's a lot of moral and mental benefits that New Directions has given me.
Definitely, and even for the people though that are listening to this that are not in Melbourne, I think it's just a reminder of finding people with those common grounds and those common goals, and that are ready and open to build new relationships. That's a fantastic place to start. Okay, so now we can actually, before we fast forward to the point of you're like, yes, I'm pregnant. How did Jomi find it, and how did you support each other during that time? Because so for example, for me, my partner and I, Jess, like we're going to be approaching this time at some point, and so even just on a personal note, I'm curious as to how you ensured that like you stayed as a team and you supported each other, and because it's very easy if you feel like when you're trying to fall pregnant and you're using words like I failed, well then it's always good to blame someone to discharge that emotion. So how did you guys ensure that you came together?
Sure. Yeah. So like I said, we didn't have to go through this phase for a very long time, but yes, it was very challenging. And yes, I was blessed with a really, really supportive partner. Jomi knew exactly how important exercise was for my body and for my mind. And he also understands what the society taboos are. If you don't fall pregnant for a few months, 90% of the problem is with the women, and probably no challenges with the men. But Jomi was in a situation that he said, it's 50% yours and 50% mine. We are in this together. So we went for a health test together. So that's the first thing. I think it's important for the couple to be healthy and get themselves tested. And we did that. And he also made sure that pregnancy was not the topmost priority in our lives. Everything else continued as we were doing. And he did give importance to my physical and mental fitness. And that's why he was the one who pushed me to say, okay, look, if it is scary to be working out in the situation that you think you may have fallen pregnant and you may be impacting the baby in any way while exercising, let's go in for a personal trainer. So he's been extremely supportive, that I need to be mentally fit, mentally calm and de-stressed in the phase that we are trying, because women play a very important role in the phase of falling pregnant and also during the phase of pregnancy to ensure that your baby is calm and happy as well. So yes.
Yeah. Well, you're a beautiful team. So there's no doubt about that. Okay, so now you've fallen pregnant. How was that? Were you like, I haven't asked you this actually.
Yes.
Like, how did you jump up and down, or how? What was? It could go either way, right? Because then it's like, oh my god, it's real. So how did you feel?
Yeah, like I said, it was a month we were unprepared for pregnancy, because in the next 4 days we were traveling to Iceland and UK for a 1-month trip. And when we didn't fall pregnant until August, we said, okay, let's not try for September, and then we'll travel in October, come back, and then we'll start planning again. So when I really saw the result, I was shocked because it was not planned. Well, and like I said, when you're not stressed about falling pregnant, it's probably the right time to fall pregnant. But you know what? We were happy. I've always been disappointed when I've taken a test and not seen 2 lines on the test. But this time when I saw, I was like, oh my God, this is real. And then in 3 days, we had to see the doctor, get a go-ahead for travel. He just had to make sure that it was not an ectopic pregnancy, and things like that. And I took enough precautions for any symptoms I may experience in the first trimester. But I think I must admit that I have been lucky that I haven't had severe pregnancy symptoms. And I blame it on my exercise, because I haven't stopped exercising even today. And especially in the first trimester, because the doctor and Matt were giving me confidence that the first trimester, you can do what you always used to do. And I used to do real high intensity workout, like lifting 80-90 kilos of weights for deadlifts and squatting with 60 kilos and things like that. And I continued to do that under guidance, not by myself. So I think workout really helped me to keep my symptoms low and ensure that I was physically fit. Maybe some people say they haven't been really able to work out in the first trimester. I don't know. My experience was that workout was my best friend to be sane during travel and during pregnancy, during my first trimester. And the second trimester has been quite more, a little more energetic than my first, I must say. And I've been able to work out, but I am getting bigger and slower. And Matt has kind of toned down my workout because my heart rate just spikes up even when I'm doing half the intensity workout that I used to do. So Matt keeps a watch on what kind of exercise I can do, when I'm really able to do, when I'm pushing myself beyond my limits. So that's kind of helpful. So I would say workout is my best friend at the moment.
Fantastic. So just to back up, do you want to explain to the girls why you had to get the go-ahead for travel? So what I mean by that is what? So for example, what are the risks when you're flying, when you're pregnant, if you remember?
Well, again, mine has been a very, very normal scenario, and I'm grateful for that. And I didn't know. I went into this journey without any knowledge or too much of knowledge from Google, right? So I knew traveling was okay, but I knew traveling was probably not okay during the first trimester. But when I spoke to my doctor, he just gave me the courage to say it's okay to travel. You only have to be watchful about keeping yourself hydrated, not having watchful about the kind of food you eat, especially because it's going to be more outside food. So you can't eat raw meat, you can't eat raw cheeses. Just be careful about where you eat your salads from. So you just have to be mindful about being hydrated and the food. And the rest of the things, he was really normal. He said, don't be too. And he did say if I have any kind of bleeding or anything like that, he did give me meds, and I did have a team supporting me here in Australia if anything went wrong. So it was a very, very risky trip that I made, but thankfully everything was fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there's just that, just one thing, which was there is very, very quite low. So I'm going to use a word that is there's a lot of negative emotion wrapped up in it, but there is a low level of radiation that comes from airplanes. So,
yes.
Yeah. So I knew you knew that. So
yes. So it is. Yeah. I was a bit worried about the radiation, but doctor said it's perfectly fine to be traveling, provided your health condition, your blood pressure, and things like that are normal, and. So it was, the radiation didn't have much of an impact at all, and till date, I'm 23 weeks pregnant only, and till date I've taken about 12 flights, and every time I have to take a flight, I am concerned. I talked to my doctor, and he said it's perfectly fine to go into the metal detectors for your security checks. It's okay, and you're not going to get this kind of radiation in flight, even when you're in Australia on land. The kind of radiation exposure you get is kind of very similar to when you be on flight or on land. So that's not, unless your body allows you to be flying at a high altitude, it's perfect. That's the advice I got from my doctor.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that I was thinking of, when you put those two things up against each other as well, for anyone that is a little bit nervous about that, you were going home to go and see all of your family. And the amount of joy that I'm sure, and happiness and connection that you felt when you went back, that immediately means that your baby is going to be feeling that as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
And so there's just, even in that moment there, you're going to dramatically increase as your baby grows through epigenetics, but just generally speaking, it means that your baby will be feeling a intrinsic level of self-worth.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes.
So, yes. Okay. Beautiful. All right. So now you're exercising. First trimester, we went through that, and you can so basically the rules are for the first trimester that you can do everything that you were doing. So for example, for someone that wasn't exercising at all, that's not necessarily the best time to start an exercise program at all. But if you were working out in the gym 3-4 times a week, then you can continue on that path, and there's no trouble there at all. And then as you progress, either in the second or third trimester, it really depends on you and how comfortable you are with it. There begins to be a limitation a soft limitation on your maximum heart rate. So one of the general rules of thumb that's taught is to not go above 140 beats per minute, and especially in the third trimester. And so that's to make sure that your baby and the womb and your muscles are all receiving enough oxygenated blood, as well as the CO2 being taken away. And so that's there. And then the other side is to, especially in the third trimester, not be lying down on your back too often, because it starts to decrease the blood flow to the womb, but also basically just to ensure that there's no risk of blood flow being decreased.
Absolutely. So, and one thing I did on those lines was, right from my first trimester, I trained myself to sleep on my sides. I invested on a pregnancy pillow, which was $45, bought it online. Really helps for you to train yourself to sleep on the sides, because it gets a bit difficult to train yourself in your second or your third trimester. And I've always been the kind who slept on my tummy. So that was a real good tip that worked for me, that I trained myself to sleep on the side right from the first trimester.
And do you have one of the pillows that you put between your knees as well when you're lying down on your side?
So it is kind of a horseshoe pillow. Yes, it's a horseshoe pillow, so you can keep a pillow between your knees and use it as a pillow for your head as well.
Yeah. Perfect. No, I was just curious. We hadn't had that conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, and so now that obviously everything's getting closer, one, how are you feeling about the birth, and how are you feeling in terms of your own health through this process?
Sure. So far, I've been feeling my best, right? I think it is a baby girl, and I think it's her that is making my skin glow, my hair look beautiful. So I've been blessed with this pregnancy so far, and I think exercise to top it, right? I have a full-time job, 5 days a week. Sometimes have to extend different, to support different time zones. And workout is my only way to de-stress. So I work out in the evenings, because after a long day, that 45 minutes to 1 hour is what helps me keep going for the rest of the 4-5 hours that I need to finish for the day. So, and here I don't have much support. It's just my husband and myself. So between the two of us, we have to handle our household chores, workout, and I have a creative side of me where I have too many hobbies that I'm obsessed with, and I try to spend at least an hour a day with my creative projects, just with the hope that my little baby will get some of the qualities or these skill sets that I would like her to have as well. So yes, so it's a very busy day. So I get very little time to rest, but I make sure when I'm resting, it is real resting.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a really nice balance there as well. You obviously have your meaningful work that you love, and then you have your passions as well, and then you've got your exercise, and you've got your hubby, and growing your baby.
Yeah, because I always read this, and I think I'm doing it right. There are 3 things or 3 hobbies you need to have for yourself. One which will help you earn money, one which will help you keep fit, and one which will help you be creative. And I think I'm kind of balanced with all of them. So, and I would say, yes, get a hobby on the side. Use it for your de-stress time. If you're not too much into exercising, it really helps a lot for your mental wellness during pregnancy.
And that's actually even bigger now that I think about it, postnatal, because you're going to have a lot more time on your hands. Like, okay,
That's what I think.
Let me clarify that. You will be running away after your baby girl, without a doubt, but there will be short snippets of time, like an hour while she's sleeping, of which you may not be able to get out of the house, but you can definitely have fun with that. And if you have the energy on that particular day, you can obviously go for it, which is fantastic, because otherwise you're just like, what do? I'll put on the TV. Like, I need to veg out. So another thing that I wanted to go into, which is a little bit less on the positive side, is usually when one person falls pregnant, they're going to come into a community of other women that are pregnant, and whether it's their immediate friends that they've known for years, or a group that they've met through the different groups, and sometimes, okay, so the statistics are that 1 in 4 pregnancies is not going to go full term.
Yep.
And full term with a healthy baby. So can you talk to me about your experience of going through that journey with a group of girls? And
Absolutely.
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
Yes. So we have this WhatsApp group. I have 3 of my friends who we are geographically scattered, one in California, one in India, and one and myself in Australia. And somehow our phases of life has been so to the point that we all started planning for pregnancy at the same time, right? It so happened that I fell pregnant first, and 6 weeks after me, another friend in India, she fell pregnant. And I mean, of course, we don't, it's, I think everybody is so fearful about talking about pregnancy that you don't disclose it, or you're confirming it for yourself if you're really pregnant. So we didn't know about it for a few weeks. And I think only 8 weeks ago, we realized that she told us that she was about 12 weeks pregnant, and suddenly she couldn't hear the heartbeat of the baby, and it was terminated, and she was going through a lot of tests just to see what was the challenge. And the journey that she's gone through is commendable. I mean, any woman who goes through this journey, I think she's a warrior. But I think the impact it kind of had on me, who was already about 18 weeks pregnant at that time, and the impact it had on another friend who was trying to get pregnant, was negative. Unfortunately, you don't know how to handle this situation, because I realized it was impacting me and my mental state of mind so much, saying, oh, I've come so far, I am grateful to that, but I need to be prepared for anything that can happen in the future. I thought, once you've passed the first trimester, you're fine, your success rate is so high, nothing's going to happen. But I think this was a reality check for me to say, okay, you never know what's coming next. You have to do what you can do. But if under any such circumstances, you also have to be mentally prepared. So that was a learning. You can't really run away from these situations, but I think you also have to gain courage and learn something out of others' experiences as to how would you handle such situations if you had it in your life.
And that does go on well to, has your mum given you any wonderful advice, or have you guys had any really good conversations that you could only have now that you've fallen pregnant?
Oh my God, let's not even go there.
Oh, really?
Because I come from a typical Indian background where the myths are, eat for 2 people, eat everything you want, stay happy, do not bend to even pick up a pen that has been dropped. and things like that, right? It's only about food, it's only about being pampered, and it's only about resting. And my friend in India says that the doctors advise bed rest for the first trimester, advise bed rest for the third trimester, and it's only the second trimester you can do whatever you can do. And the traffic and the chaos in the city, anyways, doesn't allow you to get out. So, literally, pregnancy women are house arrested during their pregnancy phase. So, it's actually been very challenging for me to take. I don't know where to draw a balance between taking the advice from my mother and grandmother, whose genes are probably very similar to mine, or should I be taking the advice from my personal trainer and my doctor, who are so Western and completely drastic in their thinking and advice. I try and strike a balance, but I think what's working, I am kind of inclined towards the Western advice that I'm getting from Matt and my doctor, because that's what keeping me sane at the end of the day. Doing what my mother has been advising hasn't really been helping me to be sane during this phase. Which is one of the reasons why she's not here with me to take care of me. I've rather asked her to come when the baby is here, so I'll need support to look after the baby.
And I would like to point out that normally I would never say, don't do what your mum tells you. Yeah, that's really interesting, and it's so when it comes to this topic, so I think that I'm definitely don't feel like I'm in a power struggle with your mum. I try not to think like that. Instead, and it's not really what I'm thinking about when I'm trying to guide you on, because it's more of a like you've said, it's more of a Western versus Indian mentality, and to a degree it's also a broad middle class mindset versus because it's a little bit more unequal, an upper class mindset, which would, I'm being very careful with my words, which means that obviously when you're in the middle, there's a lot more emphasis on self-reliance, and for me, I really love, and so obviously I'm going to disclose this because so that you can understand how I think, and then therefore you can make your own minds up whether it's a good way, is a more stoic mindset, and when it comes to a stoic mindset, all it means is that you have, and Aristotle, when it comes to virtues, it means that you have virtues. So for example, there's the virtue of courage, right? And then on either side of that, you'll have two vices. So you'll have rashness, where you're just, doing foolish things and taking way too much risk. And then you have cowardice, which is, obviously just being way too cautionary. And so when it comes to food and when it comes to exercise, I'm not thinking one way is totally wrong, but I'm thinking, how can we get that perfect balance, and also make sure that, and one of the ways that I believe in finding that is knowing, all right, are you happy?
Yeah.
If you're happy, then it's usually a good sign. And if you have everyone do things for you and you don't do anything yourself, it can actually feel a little bit numb or a little bit empty. Or the most beautiful thing that I've ever seen was someone explaining this, being like, okay, imagine for a moment that you start off with, and this is just a little bit of a rant, so I apologize, but imagine all the things that humans need. Okay, so we're going to start off right at the very beginning of basics, which is you've got a man and a woman, they have companionship, and they're in a village, right? And so you have the fire for warmth, they have a house or a hut for protection, and then you go, okay, well then they need a community of friendships, and then that will definitely have a massive impact. then they need to have some form of work or something to make them feel happy, and like they're contributing. And then you can go, okay, well, let's take this another step up, and let's say that we now give them like a massive house, and we give them a mansion, and then, but in order to give them the mansion, you kind of have to take them away from their community, and they have to detach a little bit from other people. And then you're like, ooh, that doesn't feel good, but the mansion does look really nice. And then you go, okay, well, now let's give them, let's see how happy they are when we give them, 10 Lamborghinis, or beautiful Mercedes. Then you're like, oh, that's nice. And then you're like, okay, well, then let's make it so that they don't actually have to get out of bed ever, and they can just put on a TV and look at their mansion and look at all their beautiful cars and not have to work. And you're like, oh, that's not great. And then you're like, all right, and now let's take it to the next level, which is we'll give them a catheter so that they never have to get out of bed, they never have to which is it was beautifully done. And I'm probably ruining it a bit by describing it in this kind of crude manner. But at some point, that doesn't sound nice to you. And so then you go, okay, what do I need to make me happy? And gradually you pull back the levels, and and then you stay with that. So okay, this is not the match show, so yeah. We'll take it back to you.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I did spend time with family in the UK in my first trimester. I spent some time with family in India in my second trimester. In a week's time, I was bored. I knew that's not the lifestyle I wanted for my pregnancy. And for the first time ever, I was really looking forward to come back to Australia and get started with my actual lifestyle, right? So, well, it is definitely your mental sanity that really is what you need to go after.
What are the best benefits? And I know this wasn't the total topic of the conversation, but it's flowing that way, so we might as well touch on it.
Sure.
So what are your three things that you absolutely love about India and about that living there, like the lifestyle there? And then sure. I don't want to put them up against each other. I'm actually trying to look at the positives of both.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, definitely. For me, one is family, right? My roots are from India. I would do anything to give that experience to my children. About the way I was brought up, and I don't know. I think everybody's proud of their own culture, and somehow the world raves about Indian culture because I think we're very strong with our family roots and things like that. We do anything for any kind of family. And the only reason I went in my second trimester, taking a 16-hour flight, it's possibly because my grandmother wanted to see me pregnant. So you will do anything for the family, and I love that. And it's still so close-knit, so I love that about India. I think people come first in India, regardless of family or not. I used to get breakfast from all my neighbors just because I'm pregnant, right? So the expression is in the form of food, which is probably not the most favorite for me in this phase, but people just express their love regardless of family or not. So that's that's something I really love about India. What else? I think shopping. I shopped like crazy for myself and for my baby girl. So yes, and I would do anything for that. I think it was just the pregnancy hormones, I would say. Yeah. I wasn't physically well because I ate so much food. I was bloated. I did no physical activity. Otherwise, I would handle my whole household. So it didn't make me keep me physically fit and mentally fit. So it's the first time ever I was okay to come back to Australia.
Fantastic. It was beautifully put.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, so postnatal. So after you have your baby girl, so I've spoken to Bhavya a little bit about some of the expectations that could be had. So I like to go through different scenarios so that so for example, Best case scenario, like when it comes to how rapidly you recover, it might be that you're, after 5 to 10 days, you go for a walk with your baby in the pram and your mum, and you get to have, and then so that's the beginning, and then after 2 months, you're able to do Pilates and start building up your core strength, and then as the months go by, you'll start doing squats and lunges, and everything comes back and beautiful. You're ready to go already. And if anything, you'll be like, oh my God, I don't want to exercise yet. I need a break still. Or it may be 6 months. And then there is like a bit of an X factor where you don't know what you don't know. And so if something comes up, then during the pregnancy, or if there's any complication, then it can be affected then. But assuming all goes well, that's pretty typical. It's 2 to 6 months, and then going through a Pilates program, and then that can build up into getting straight back into everything, and potentially pelvic floor strengthening as well, which then once you're strong again, it will allow you to jump and run and do all of those fun things. But even if you can't do that for a little while, you can still bike ride. And so that's how that side goes. How do you feel about that? Is it kind of like just get to the birth, and then then we'll take care of that? Or how do you feel like, when you think about the next year?
Yes. So I think what happens here is that if you are Instagram obsessed, you see a lot of pregnancy moms, influencers doing such wonderful things, right? They have a beautiful body even during the 38th week, and they're up and running in the second week. I don't know if it's real life, or I don't know if they're doing it for Instagram. So yes, there are a lot of things that can set maybe false expectations, or expectations that are not meant for you, right? So that way, I think, Matt, you kind of check in with me, and I think bring me back to reality and say, there are several things that can happen, and you never know what can happen, and we need to be prepared for it, right? So all I can do at the moment is keep myself active during my pregnancy, so my recovery gets quicker and easier, and my labor gets easier as well, right? So I'm focusing on the current week. Can I work out today? Am I not too tired? Can I hit the gym? I just need to push myself a little bit, maybe. Then I work out. So I don't push myself as much I used to do pre-pregnancy. So, excuse me. So I just take it by the day. Ensure that I'm having a healthy everyday, healthy week, healthy pregnancy, so that I have a healthy post-pregnancy. So like you say, I will be prepared for anything, and I will not have high expectations about my body, because it has already it is going through so much, and it will be doing magic of creating a baby. So I don't think I should be punishing it too much during the postnatal time. I'll see how my body takes it, and we'll go as per how it is and in that situation.
Beautiful. All right. And then my very last question, unless there's a follow-up, is so for women that are in the stage where you were seeking to fall pregnant, what tips or a little bit of advice, or even motivation, would you like to give them? Let's say it's 3 things. Would you like to give them during this period, which is a little bit, which is an uncertain time?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing I say is get your basic tests done, right? I know doctors here do not do any detailed tests without trying for 6 months. Yes, it's fair enough, but just do basic tests like thyroid, vitamin D, maybe vitamin D, not so much for white people, but for Indian skin, for Asian skin, somehow they are very deficient of vitamin D because of the melanin content in their skin. So, and which is vital for pregnancy, right? So I did not realize all of this, but fortunately, I caught up because I was gaining excess weight. But I have my friends who have caught up, who realize they have thyroid only after 6 months of trying. So it can be a lot of stress to you mentally when you don't fall pregnant. But these are some really easy recoveries that you can do to your with supplements and things like that. So just get a basic test for the nutrients that you probably need to fall pregnant. The second one is get healthy with physical activity as well as with your food, because physical activity you cannot start anything new, and it will be too late to start working out during pregnancy. So at least give it 6 months of getting used to working out regularly, at least 4 to 5 times a week. And before you fall pregnant, it will be really helpful during your pregnancy. The third is have an understanding between you and your partner as to how you want to handle this journey, because you will be going through a lot of hormonal imbalances. You may think mine has been a very happy pregnancy story, but probably one thing I didn't touch upon is the emotional imbalances that I have. I'm known to be a very balanced person. I don't react to situations abruptly, but I think pregnancy has made me more emotional. I do break out very easily. I can cry very easily. I can make people feel horrible very easily, and your husband becomes the punching bag in such situations. So you need to have an agreement with your partner. Talk to your partner regularly to remind them that you are pregnant, you're going through a lot physically, mentally, emotionally, and you need support from them, and they will definitely understand. But if we don't talk to them, we cannot make assumptions that they will get what we're going through.
Definitely. That was beautifully put.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for coming, Bhavya. I think the girls will really appreciate it. And thank you so much for sharing those last 3 points as well. I think that was really, really, really important, and set people up.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for this opportunity. And I wish all the ladies good luck who are trying to fall pregnant. Remember, all you need is a peace of mind and not a strong project plan as to when you will fall pregnant. So yeah, just be happy, have fun, and keep smiling. Thank you.